Welcome back to another episode of Broker Talk. Today we're going to talk about real estate best practices, and I have someone I have great affection for, his professionalism, John Dulczewski. He is the executive director of the Greater Boston Association of Realtors. Welcome aboard, John. Thanks so much for coming on and talking to us.
Larry, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
One of the things everyone always asks, well, one of the things consumers quite often say is all real estate agents are alike. And that's no more true than all politicians are alike. Nobody is alike in this business. There's certain skills that make people successful in the real estate business. And let's start with that. What are some of the things that make someone effective in real estate?
Sure. Well, I've given this a lot of thought leading up to this program, and I've had the good fortune to work for the Realtor organization at various chapters for 35 years now. So I've had a lot of exposure to agents and brokers, and had a lot of opportunity to observe and interact with our members. And I think what rises to the top for me is really knowledge and education. This is a very competitive industry in which you and your colleagues work, collaborative by nature, but also competitive. I think what it takes is a willingness to invest in yourself, to become the true professional that you want to be. So I see that, day to day in terms of members who will come into our organization to take courses, and improve themselves, learn new skills, get specialized in a certain area of the business. So, one thing that I don't know if we'll get into this today, but for your listeners, there are real estate agents and there are realtors. And so everyone gets a real estate license. We're a voluntary trade organization. And so, members who join our organization have the ability to earn certifications and designations that can set them apart from others. So we can dive into that, but that's, I guess, the first thing that I would point to is that that information and that education, and so it extends beyond the coursework, of course, that they can take. This business of real estate is regulated, right? And there are laws and in ordinances in local communities and at the state level that have an influence on how business is conducted, and they change all the time. And so that's another reason that I think anyone in this business really needs to stay in tune with what's happening, because it can directly impact their clients.
It's absolutely true. It's part of what the code is, that you need to be aware and paying attention. And one of the differences is you either have a code or you don't. And that's one of the things between a realtor and a sales agent. The continuing knowledge. And let's talk about them briefly. There's 8 or 12 designations. You can be certified real estate specialist. You can be deal with senior citizens, senior real estate agents. I'm CRS, I'm a green, so you have a green designation. I have a luxury home designation. That's not an NAR designation, but it's a designation nonetheless. But the bottom line is, and that's all those numbers that are after, those letters that are after a real estate agent. They're CRS, they're SRES.
Accredited buyer representative, seller's representative specialist. There's one for certified international property specialist. The list goes on.
Yeah. But that's one of the things that does differentiate some people to another. I was surprised to find out one of the biggest And I'm not going to put you on the spot because I was totally shocked by this. One of the biggest real estate and the first real estate transaction was the Louisiana Purchase. So that was bought from France for $10 million.
Mhm.
And that worked out to 4 cents an acre. It made me wonder, when who was it? John Smith, who bought Manhattan for baubles. That I wonder what the value of that was, and think of the value now.
Sure.
So, but real estate is one measure of wealth that has existed since people owned property. If you owned more property, you were considered wealthier. This has become a wonderful opportunity here in America for 60% of the population to own their own home. And that makes them wealthy in that respect, as long as they pay their mortgage and develop the equity. The amount of equity that's been built in the last 2 months has been 20% a year over year, and that's not sustainable. The
Mhm.
average is 6%. But understanding how the market changes, especially with technology, could you talk for a moment about what you've seen in the changes in technology and how people communicate? So now there's social media, and I'll hand it to you.
Sure. Well, obviously, just in the 35 years I've been involved in the business, obviously we've gone from, computers in their infancy, and the evolution of fax machines to obviously now text and email, for the immediacy of the communication. And I think we'll probably get into this too in terms of communication, but in serving clients and customers, there's a whole host of questions, and things that, considerations that agents have to have in terms of how they're going to communicate with that particular individual. Different generations communicate differently and have different preferences for frequency and method, and all of that. So that certainly is one area where it's evolved. And now we've got social media and video that is playing a larger and larger part in
Right.
this business, in order to not only market and brand yourself, but right, having a presence, building your sphere, all of those sorts of things. But
Right.
we've also got, prop tech, which property technology firms. And I was just in thinking about the conversation we were going to have today. Look that up, and the most recent numbers that I found for 2019 was $14 billion was invested by venture capital firms in prop tech companies, just in the first half of 2019. So there are an immeasurable number of companies that are looking to the real estate industry, to disrupt it, quite frankly, right? To take
Right.
real estate agents out of being at the center or the core of the transaction. And that's evolving daily, right?
Right.
So it's everything from, how some franchises work to the iBuyer phenomenon that has evolved, not so much in our part of the country, but elsewhere, for people to get cash for their homes,
Quickly.
directly, and not go through the whole listing process. You've got other companies that are getting involved on the mortgage side of the business. There are companies that are creating platforms, for renters and homeowners insurance, and
Right.
eliminating those
Right.
sorts of brokers. It's everywhere you turn.
It's everywhere you turn. And the National Association of Realtors, year after year, will go out to the consumers and ask what are the big problems, what are the issues. One of them is always communication. My agent either didn't communicate or didn't communicate often enough or quickly enough or something. But, it used to be that you would get a phone call. Well, now you can get a phone call, you can get a text, you can get a private message, you could get somebody reaching out in TikTok, for God's sake, and um, it's just mind-boggling, but necessary if your client wants to communicate in a specific way with you. Your choice is either to do that or find somebody who will help them to do that. because that's what they're used to. And that you alluded to that when you said like millennials like this kind of a communication, and like someone my age, you want to call them because they like the phone. Nobody ever talks to old people. So, but a younger person, they don't ever call them. My 31-year-old son, I don't think has ever picked up the phone when I called.
Mhm.
And that's fine because the communication goes back and forth, but you have to be prepared to speak to your clients in the way they want to get their information. And I think
Yeah,
that,
and it's managing those expectations, right?
right,
So those are, and there are so many. You have to be an effective communicator in this business, I believe, which is sort of number two on my list in terms of, attributes of an effective agent. Is you first off, it's a relationship business, right? If you're going to be successful in real estate, it's about your sphere, your relationships, the reputation that you have, and you build that through building trust, and being honest with folks and that sort of thing. So being able to effectively communicate, manage those expectations of your clients in terms of, how you'll communicate with them, how often, find out what they need to know about, are all very important. And it's not just, in terms of this whole communication, it's not just the written or spoken word. It's
right,
um, being an effective listener, being
right.
able to read body language. Those are, I think, critical characteristics again and skills
Absolutely.
for people to have.
Right. And there are people that are sympathetic. There are people who are empathetic. There's a whole range of emotions that we have as professionals. But what we're talking about is understanding what the person across the table from us, the consumer, who's the buyer or the seller, what they're feeling and what they're thinking. I think that's really important. And you can find types of people that are better suited to work with you. And that's part of that whole find your niche kind of thing.
Hmm.
I went through a whole period of time in my career when there were expired listings. There weren't many expired listings the last 2 years. So I developed other niches. But an expired listing, when you called up those people, they had wanted to sell their house and they didn't. It was overpriced, it was poorly marketed. There are reasons why this, because there are general practices, generally best practices in how to market and all of that. But the first thing you had to do was create some kind of a rapport with those people because they've been disappointed. Maybe they were lied to. We don't know that. But they were definitely disappointed. And it goes back to, well, all you agents are the same. Oh, he seemed like a nice guy. You see. And I said, psychopaths are nice people. They're able to talk to you and manipulate you. That doesn't make you good at what you do. And I am really not suggesting my competitors are psychopaths, although I could name names. I'm kidding, of course. uh, I don't know any. I want to ask, go in a different direction before I dig a deeper hole.
Hmm.
I have always been of the belief that there are two types of leaders in our industry. One of them is the leader by sales volume, by how many millions of dollars they sell. And then there are the leaders of the industry who are great agents, but they're not always the top leaders in that, but they're leaders in making sure that our industry has good rules and good regulations. And that is so critically important right now. We need more building. We need new zoning because of that. And zoning is local, it's not national. The town you live in determines how much property you have, what the setbacks are, and like that. Talk about the difference between a high producing agent and a highly involved agent.
Hmm. Well, I mean, we see that very much in our association. The truth of the matter is the really, really high top producers focus entirely, on the business, generating sales, and closing transactions, and they're not very active in our organization. Um, Perhaps they're involved locally in the community, but that they have not carved out necessarily time for our association. There are others, though, that have done both, right?
Yeah.
And they might not be at the very top of the list, but they're still earning, an income that supports their lifestyle, and they
Right.
have also carved out time to give back to the industry through our association, whether it be serving on a committee, in a volunteer leadership position, participating in our public policy advocacy efforts, giving back through our community outreach efforts, any number of ways. And they also are trying to bring along and support that next generation.
Right.
This industry is one, I don't have to tell you, where the median age is in the mid 50s. And there are a lot of our own members who have been in this business 30, 40 plus years. They're about to retire, or at least not be as active as they once were. And we've got, very excitedly, I think, a new generation coming in to this business. And we've got a large number of members who are serving as mentors and helping teach new skills through education, class instruction, and so forth to these individuals. And that's the two types that you alluded to that we have as leaders.
Right, and I can speak to some of the leaders, the financial leaders. A lot of those people do not have the time because they're running large organizations to sit on committees and do that, but they participate in other varieties of ways. Their organization could provide money. They could give to the many organizations that the real estate industry supports, like Welcome Home would be one of them. But I think that the one of the things that's really important that we haven't touched on yet is the ability to. We talked about listening, and listening is connected to both sales and negotiations. So you have to be listening to the person to be able to negotiate with someone. They have, I think it's often been said, a win win situation is when both lose a little to get to that win win. Talk about how negotiation and the ability to understand a complex issue and how to get around that.
Mhm.
Do you have any thoughts on
Well,
that?
yeah, I think, in terms of skills that are critically important and fundamental to success in this business are, the sales skills and the negotiation skills. And of course, the organization has courses on those that if anybody listening is interested in, they can certainly look for those on our website. If I could, at GBAR.org, GBAR.org, the State Realtor Association, Massachusetts Association, and of course, National Association of Realtors all have opportunities available online. But getting to the sales and the negotiation, I think effectively being able to close right on a presentation to get the listing. There are ways that you have, again, it comes back to communication, but ways in which you have to be able to deliver if you're going to be successful in this business. Lead generation is critical, so that's an element of sales. And again, going back to communication one more time, is the follow through.
Yeah.
I think this is a customer. We said it's a relationship business. It's a customer service business. I think those that really succeed in this business make customer service number one. It is
Right.
exceptional customer service that sets them apart from others. They're willing to put in the time. They have the drive and the determination. One comment that has always stuck with me from a past leader of the association is that they said they woke up with the attitude that I'm unemployed every single morning, and that's what drove them, to go through their to-do list, right, and pursue their goals. So I think all of those things are very important. On the negotiation side, we've talked about it a little bit, but there are all kinds of personality types. Buying a home is such a large financial purchase. It inevitably becomes emotional at some point, and emotions run high, and being able to manage the transaction, manage your clients to a successful conclusion, comes down to that ability to compromise, right?
Right.
Collaborate. Something another agent shared with me too is that, it's real estate is kind of unique. You're not just having this interaction with your client, but you've also got an agent and another consumer on the other side, and
And
that
banks.
makes things incredibly complex.
Right, right. Yeah. One of the things I've always told my clients, because I've never seen it to be any different than this, but before they sign on the dotted line, the exclusive with me, I tell them, I don't know what's going to happen, but there's going to be three uh-oh moments and one jump off the cliff moment. And I'll let you know that it always happens and we don't always get all of them, but I know what they are and I'm going to let you know that they're coming. And so, of course, they're like very interested in like, what's an uh oh moment? An uh oh moment is you do your inspection and there's something that has to be negotiated. That's an uh oh moment. There's a great, great book that you probably have heard about. I think the writer's Chris Voss, and it's called Never Split the Difference, and he was an FBI negotiator, and he had to negotiate for people's lives. And that's why he always said never split the difference, because quite often in real estate we get, oh, okay, let's go in the middle. Well, he couldn't, because the middle, you can't be half dead. You're either alive or dead. But he had so many interesting techniques about how to keep a negotiation alive. And you don't have to read the book. I'll tell you right now, keep asking questions. Well, why is that important? What does that mean to you? Those kinds of things. And in a negotiation, I think we already said it in the show, in a win win situation, somebody gives up something on both sides. Um, I've been self employed my entire life, John. And the only thing I really know, other than I have to get up and make it rain today, is that my boss is a jerk. And he makes me get up in the morning and have conversations with people. But I drive around now, I've been at it long enough, and I'll go buy houses. And I said, I put, the Schultz in that family, and I put, the Joneses in that family, and it changes communities. It's not just a transaction, it's a life changing transaction for those people. It's where they're living. The difference between a house and a home is memories. A house is a bunch of rooms and square footage. A home is where you created memories, and that's the other part of the emotional part. Um, I've always thought that core driving emotion was important. Why someone was doing something, when they had to do it, and all of that. Um, and I think you see that with agents as well. Do they want to succeed? Are they driven to pick up their phone, for instance? Get back to people in a reasonable period of time. Um,
Yeah, the other thing I would touch upon, Larry, as we're talking about this, that I don't want to leave out of the conversation for the listeners is, again, about having a strong grasp and understanding of the communities and the local markets that you work.
right.
I think success in this business, particularly for those getting into it initially, is, identifying a neighborhood or a market niche that they're comfortable with, and learning everything about it,
Yeah.
right? That's how you set yourself apart. So many try to be everything to everyone. But if you really want to establish yourself, build name recognition, and find early success, I think it's about just really working a particular local market, getting your
Right.
name out there, understanding the data, knowing what's on the market, what things have sold for, and being able to interpret that data. Ultimately, I think again why we talked about technology companies earlier. The reason real estate professionals are going to continue to, I think, succeed and thrive in this industry and not be replaced is because of that ability to analyze and interpret and understand all the numbers, then helping a consumer decipher that to make the right decision for themselves in buying or selling.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and there will always be people who will do in every industry will do things cheaper and faster for you. That doesn't mean better. That doesn't mean it's the best for you. And all these technology companies where you don't have to pay a commission to someone. If these people ever looked at the statistics, they'd find out that they made less money even though they didn't pay a commission, because real estate agents, people who know how to negotiate, will get a higher value. And I always say that's where we make our money. We have to make sure that we've done the best that's possible for you, for your property, the greatest good for the area. And I think that's part of our code as well, is
Mhm.
highest and best use of the land, and the land includes the property.
Right.
Let's talk just for a moment, because I know that we have a number of younger agents here, and I was in a discussion on one of the social medias, and they were talking about if you're new, go after your family and friends. And frankly, in my many years of business, the only people who've ever taken advantage of me were my family and friends. Because well, first of it, if you don't take yourself seriously, nobody will. But secondly, they see you as a family and a friend, and you should do this for me rather than you're working as a professional, and let me compensate you as a professional for it. So I absolutely think the best thing to do is to join organizations, to talk to people, to help in your community, become somebody that's important not only to your trade association but mostly to your community. You know.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things for those who are thinking about and may not be part of the Realtor organization yet is all the networking opportunities, right? So you get first of all, you learn that you're not in this alone. There are many others that are in the same position you are, and they become a resource for you,
Yeah.
right? It's not just the veterans who you lean on, maybe within your own brokerage or the local marketplace, but you have the ability to connect with people of similar age and similar experience to you, and grow together.
Right.
And I think there's a benefit there, and as well as we can connect folks with a lot of industry affiliates,
Yeah.
the home inspectors, the stagers, the lending officers, that allow you to build that resource network that you can then allow your clients to avail themselves of, right? So you're helping connect them with all the other industry specialists and experts that are going to allow for them to either make that transaction, purchase that home, or once they're in it, maintain it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. For new agents, the thing I always say is anywhere you spend money, there's someone you should talk to about real estate. It's a bakery, it's a restaurant, it's your car repair, it's your insurance guy. Anywhere where you spend some of your money, that person will listen to you. And they might not have something for a sale, but they might know somebody who is. So that is when you're already providing a compensation to someone else, they're definitely going to listen to you. I think, and I always thought those were the best areas to
and they
start.
become a source of referrals for you.
Yeah, always, always. And in the end, you prefer referrals than cold calls. Cold calls is a lot of rejection.
Mhm.
I often use the thing. I'll bet I'm not the first agent who's called to annoy you, am I? The answer is usually a laugh, and then
Right.
what's the most annoying thing? And then it. The worst is, and I don't know how many of these you get, is, "Hi, my name is blah 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 from blah blah blah. How are you doing today?" That is definitely a sales call,
Mhm.
because they don't care at all.
Yeah.
There's nothing authentic or real
Last
about it?
thing, one more thing I want to throw out there is, again, for the newer agents is getting involved in their community, right? We have so many members that are involved in civic and social groups, charitable organizations, school, the church, what have you, and that's a tremendous resource for you to make connections, share some information. Everybody's always curious about the housing market, it seems, right? If they're not buying or selling themselves, they're just curious about what values are, what direction they're headed in. And so get involved in your community, I would say. It doesn't have to be everything. Again, pick one, but start to make those connections, and business will follow.
I think I have you to thank, I believe, or to condemn. But more than a year ago, I got a call from. I live in the town of Milton, Massachusetts. It's right south of Boston. Nice town. Started in, I think, 1636. A lot of historic things going on in this fairly large town. They reached out to either NAR, GBAR, or MAR, one of those organizations, because in their historic district study committee, they needed a real estate agent. And I was one of the people that got forwarded, and I think it was from you, but uh, I am now on that. I stepped out to go to the bathroom and they made me the chairman when I wasn't looking. But it's a fascinating topic. 330 something towns in Massachusetts, only 130 of them have historic districts. So, what does that mean to your town? Does the value go up? Does the value go down? Can I change my house? What if I want to change the color? What if, it's just often these historic districts, people think they've been set up to stymie development, when in reality what they're trying to do is keep the tenor of the town, control the development, and allow it to grow in the way it needs to grow.
Right.
You know, another place where I'm talking to people from my town I never met before, and we have to gauge the whole town and what is historic and why is it historic, and it's endlessly fascinating topic to me,
Yeah.
as is real estate. It's thank you so much for being part of this. I know I've been pestering you for a good long while to come on, and I really appreciate you taking the time with us today.
Oh, it was a pleasure. I wish we had more time, so perhaps I'll be back.
You can. Okay. Join us next week when we have another great show.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, John. Anybody have any questions about the real estate industry? Don't hesitate to call John or myself. We are happy to help you. Thanks again for watching, and we really appreciate you.
Recording stopped.